Straight ahead on Law&Crime Daily. A former Ohio cop now charged with a murder for the shooting of an unarmed black man.
The grand jury here found the truth. Andre Hill should not be dead.
Prosecutors seek a new arrest warrant for the accused Kenosha shooter. Why attorneys for Kyle Rittenhouse say he's hiding out in a safe house.
Have my phone and call the lawyer.
Plus, does O.J. Simpson still owe millions for the wrongful death lawsuit in the murders of his former wife and her boyfriend? And what investigators now know about the shooter accused of killing 2 FBI agents in Florida. Law&Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law&Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmire along with Terri Austin. A grand jury in Ohio indicts a former Columbus police officer for murder after he shot an unarmed black man. Law&Crime's Angenette Levy is here with details about the charges.
Yeah, Brian, the city of Columbus actually fired Adam Coy, saying that his actions were not justified. Now the grand jury and the Ohio Attorney General say his actions were actually criminal.
Former Columbus police officer Adam Coy didn't have his body-worn camera activated when he first arrived at a home Andre Hill was visiting in December. But a camera feature allows the minute before activation to be recorded, so it captured him shooting Andre Hill as he held up a cell phone.
Roll to your stomach, now!
That was moments after Coy shot Hill.
Roll over, dude.
Columbus police fired Coy, and a grand jury indicted him on charges of murder. He's also charged with felonious assault and 2 counts of dereliction of duty.
Truth is the best friend of justice, and the grand jury here found the truth. Andre Hill should not be dead.
Attorney General Dave Yost's office is acting as special prosecutor. Yost says the dereliction of duty charges relate to Coy not having his body-worn camera activated and for not telling his fellow officers he believed Hill posed a danger.
The vast virtue of law enforcement is diminished by the very few bad actors among its ranks, and only by holding a bad actor accountable can that virtue be sustained. Here's what I mean in plain English. Same rules for everybody.
Now, Coy's lawyers say there was actually a 2 to 3 minute long interaction between Coy and Andre Hill in which he told him to come out of the garage and he wouldn't do it. So they say you don't see that because the body camera was simply not on. They say that Coy feared for his life because he believed that Andre Hill had a gun. They cite U.S. Supreme Court guidelines in saying that the shooting was justified.
Mr. Hill was non-compliant with some verbal orders that my client gave, and then my client ordered him to show his hands and come out. And then when he came near the car, Mr. Hill came near the car, his right hand was down low. My client couldn't see it. His left hand was up high with a cell phone in it. So as soon as Mr. Hill came across outside of the bumper of the car, my client saw a round silver object in Mr. Hill's hand, and he honestly believed that that was a silver revolver. That's when he announced gun, 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 step back, and in protocol and shot.
You have to view it through the eyes of a reasonable police officer. That is the objective standard that Graham v. Connor dictates. But the subjective standard is that the officer must be in fear for his life. And yes, that's what we're saying, that Adam Coy was in fact in fear for his life, that when he saw Mr. Hill's left hand come up with the phone, he was focused on his right hand. And at the time when his right hand came up, he believed that it was a revolver. And because of that, that's when he made that split-second decision to shoot.
And attorney Mark Collins said that the object that Coy actually saw in Hill's hand was a set of keys. Now, Andre Hill was just 47 years old. The lawyer for his family says an indictment alone will not satisfy Hill's family.
They're relieved that the grand jury, Franklin County citizens, returned an indictment for murder, for felonious assault that Attorney Wright would talk about in a little more detail, and failure to render medical assistance. They are relieved for all these reasons. But the reason they are not satisfied is because
Ohio, a murder charge carries a mandatory sentence of 15 years to life in prison. Coy's attorneys say they will ask for a reasonable bond when he enters a not guilty plea on Friday. Brian?
Thanks, Angenette. Joining us today is New York City Public Defender Marva Brown and Terri Austin. Marva, reactions to the indictment of former officer Adam Coy, and do you see a conviction in his future?
Thank you, Brian. I think that the defense attorneys are saying all the right things. Justified use of force. He believed Mr. Hill had a weapon and he felt like his life was threatened. That's what the defense attorney has to say. However, thinking about the call that was made that brought the police to this location, it was a noise disturbance, not any allegation of any violent crime. Why did the officer come with his gun drawn? There was another officer on the scene who fired 0 shots. She did not fear for her safety. She did not believe Mr. Hill had a weapon. So when we have a trial in this case and the jury looks at the video and sees the fastness in which Mr. Hill was shot, I believe there will be a conviction.
Terri, same question, and do you agree or disagree with anything Marva said?
Oh, I agree 100% with what Marva said. I am really grateful that there was an indictment in this case, and I do see a conviction, or at least I hope that there might be a conviction. Listen, the shooting took place seconds after he responded, and this, as Marva said, was a 311 non-emergency call. So it's another tragic case. And, you know, he didn't turn on his body camera. The only good thing that came out of all of this is now we have a new law in Columbus that says, one, you have to turn on your body camera and you have to render first aid, which I can't believe they didn't do in this case.
Exactly. Now, Angenette, what is some of the evidence the state has aside from the body cam video?
Yeah, that body camera video is obviously a big piece of the evidence in this case, but the Attorney General also cited statements made by Adam Coy. He was not only interviewed by BCI agents in Ohio for 2 hours or so, he also gave a written statement, and the Attorney General also mentioned cyber data. And that's a big thing with the Ohio Attorney General's office. They do a lot of these cyber data cases where they do a deep dive into people's cell phones and Facebook messages, things like that. So that will all come into play as well.
Yeah, I can see that coming into court. Thank you all for contributing. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, should O.J. Simpson be forced to pay out millions of dollars in a civil judgment? But first, the video of the accused Kenosha shooter just after 2 people were killed, what Kyle Rittenhouse told police next. Prosecutors in Wisconsin are seeking a new arrest warrant for the accused Kenosha shooter, saying he's violated bond conditions because he didn't report his new address. Kyle Rittenhouse was charged with shooting 3 people, killing 2 of them during protests last summer. He's out on $2 million bail. Records show officials went to deliver a court notice to his house, but learned he had moved months ago. Prosecutors say he's supposed to notify the court within 48 hours of moving. His defense is firing back, telling a judge Rittenhouse moved to a secret location because of death threats against him. Newly released video shows detectives reading Rittenhouse his Miranda rights after the shooting.
Because he, like I said, he's a police spotter and he knows.
Okay, so you've probably heard something like this before.
Is it Miranda?
Yep. I have to read it though because again, I'm in their house. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they've told you in terms of, you know, obviously you're not handcuffed.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Okay.
I know Miranda.
Do you want to have a lawyer and it's circle yes or no?
I would like a lawyer, but I'm willing to talk until a lawyer is available.
Okay.
I'll let you know later that I can.
They can't do anything because they can't do anything until the lawyer comes.
Actually, I don't want a lawyer.
What does too late now?
You can't unrevoke a lawyer.
Yeah. Listen.
So.
You have to look at your.
Out? Yeah, for sure.
Can I call my lawyer?
Once you've asked for a lawyer, we don't interview, so we can't
do that.
Police left the interrogation room, but cameras were still recording, capturing the defendant talking to his mother about what people were saying about them on social media.
The thing that look what your son did, you know, it's a little piece of
Are people texting you?
No, this messaging calling me a piece of I'm saying you're a piece of shit, and I'm a piece of shit mother. But it's just words.
The officers came back into the room to tell Rittenhouse he was going to be arrested. That's when Rittenhouse made an unusual request to officers, asking them to delete his social media accounts.
We believe there's probable cause for a crime. Doesn't mean the DA's office is going to see it that way. So that's what you're being held on right now.
with the f***ing bat.
Well, I'm okay. I can't talk to you about it. Okay? I'm not here to interview you anymore because you've asked for an attorney. I can't talk to you about the case. Okay? I'm just telling you what's going to happen.
What is he looking at?
It could range anywhere from reckless injury to reckless homicide to second-degree homicide. I don't know yet. It's all going to depend on
Murder?
That's what homicide is.
Yes.
Correct. Correct.
Can you guys delete my social media accounts? Like, after you guys get your warrant to go through all my can you make sure everything, like my social media is deleted?
I mean, we can't discuss the case with you, but we'll look into some stuff, okay?
Here to discuss the ongoing Kenosha shooting case is public defender Marva Brown and co-host Terri Austin. Marva, there's a warrant out for Rittenhouse's arrest, but it's based on something pretty minor, and the defense has an excuse for it. How do you think the judge should rule on this issue when Rittenhouse returns back to court?
The Kenosha district attorney has an interest in prosecuting this case to the fullest extent of the law, and that includes asking for the warrant, asking for increased bail. However, Rittenhouse appeared in court when he was supposed to. Even if the letter that was sent to his home did not make it to him, he made it to court. Bail is about ensuring the defendant's return to court. I think the judge is going to be more upset with the defense attorney than with Rittenhouse, because the defense attorney had an obligation to notify the court of the danger to the client and request that his address be held under seal. They did not make that request to the court, and it's not the defendant's fault.
So maybe the defense attorney gets chewed out, but Rittenhouse gets to stay out free. I can see that happening. Terri, interrogations for the videos for the defense can be really bad. But when you have a parent there speaking with your client, it gets even worse. How damning do you think this video is for the defense, or do you think it helps Rittenhouse in a potential trial?
You know, Brian, I think it actually helps him in a potential trial. Look, whenever you have a mother, it underscores the fact that this is a child. And I think a jury looking at the fact that she's crying hysterically, it will garner sympathy. In fact, I'd put all mothers on the jury because they will be sympathetic to this. And even when he says, "Mom, please stop talking," I think any parent can understand that a teenager, and I quote teenager, he's young, will say something like that.
Yep, I could definitely see it. And of course, he was 17 at the time. He is now 18, so still a teenager. And I think something that most mothers, I have two mothers here, so I think you guys probably know more of how that operates. Thank you both. Coming up on Law&Crime Daily, the accused killer who apparently live-streamed the bodies of his victims on social media. Plus, an exclusive preview into a new series breaking down the most chilling crimes from investigations to the verdict. The trial of an Ohio cheerleader accused of murdering her baby after the break. The trial of a cheerleader accused of murdering her baby captivated many on the Law&Crime Network. Chief Investigative Correspondent Brian Ross gives us an inside look into how the case unfolded on the new A&E series, Killer Cases.
Rhonda Schwartz and I are executive producing the show, and this case was so fascinating because police were told after they discovered the body buried in her backyard where she had secretly dug a grave, that according to the medical examiner, the bones appear to have been burned. So they get her in a confession to admit she set fire to the baby. Only later does the medical examiner say, "I was wrong, the bones were not burned." So essentially you have a false confession, which we see play out in the show. The prosecution went ahead with the case anyway, still stuck to the murder charges, even though they were able to show pretty clearly, I think, and you'll see in the case, that it would be impossible to burn a baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today because the defendant, Brooke Richardson, murdered a baby that she didn't want and never intended to keep.
She's a great student. She started doing competitive cheer outside of the school.
Skylar has just learned she's pregnant, and she tells no one. Nobody knows about this.
Sometime when her mother, father, and brother were asleep, Skylar delivers a baby girl. She names her daughter Annabelle. And then she buries the remains in the backyard.
He did give birth to a newborn infant. He caused the death of that infant. She subsequently burned the infant.
They were on a one-way track to get her to confess so they could take her to jail.
Are you gonna put me in jail because of that?
People were ready to convict. There was false information everywhere. It was ugly.
She was determined to keep her secret.
If they do an autopsy on the baby and they find out that it was living at the time of the birth, then you will go to jail. I never meant to kill my baby. Okay, your wife is in a bar. You said she's under Sergeant.
This is what he's going to tell you.
How to get out of that situation.
And I grabbed the gun.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir.
The only thing they could do was kill him.
You want to say anything?
We, the jury, and to find the defendant.
Killer Cases airs at 10 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays on the A&E networks. When we come back, the deadly shootout in South Florida. 2 FBI agents dead, 3 more wounded, what we now know about the alleged shooter, and how the feds say he was waiting for their arrival. Next. And now to check in on some of today's top legal stories making headlines, Terri Austin has the latest on a civil matter involving O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson reportedly still owes the family of murder victim Ron Goldman tens of millions of dollars. His family is asking a judge to make the Jews pay up. According to court documents, O.J. Simpson was ordered to pay $33 million after being found liable for the deaths of Goldman and Simpson's ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, in 1994. But TMZ is reporting that the former NFL player has only paid $130,000. The amount Simpson now owes has apparently more than doubled due to interest. Simpson was acquitted of double homicide, but a civil jury found him liable for the 2 deaths.
A former gubernatorial candidate has pled not guilty to killing a 12-year-old girl nearly 36 years ago. A Colorado grand jury indicted Stephen Pankey for murder and kidnapping. Greenlee police say the body of Janelle Matthews was found in 2019 by construction workers putting in a pipeline. According to investigators, Pankey was a youth pastor at the victim's church in 1984. They say he knew intimate details about the killing and made odd statements about the case over the years. An examination of her remains reportedly revealed she died from a gunshot wound to the head. A California man was arrested after police say he killed 2 people and then live-streamed their bodies on social media. Raymond Weber is facing 2 counts of murder and 1 count of felon in possession of a firearm. Investigators in Vacaville said the bodies of a 15-year-old girl and 27-year-old woman were seen on the floor of an apartment in the video. A judge ordered Weber to be held in jail without bond. Prosecutors are expected to reach plea deals with a New Hampshire couple charged in a murder decapitation. Police say the wife told authorities her husband shot and killed her lover and then ordered her to chop off the dead man's head and bury it separately from his body. Armando Barron is charged with capital murder and with assault for allegedly beating his wife during the ordeal. Bernie Barron is charged with falsifying evidence. The body of the victim, 25-year-old Jonathan Amaralt, was left alone for 4 days. The FBI has identified the now deceased suspect believed to be behind the killing of 2 agents and wounding of 3 more. Investigators say 55-year-old David Lee Huber opened fire on agents serving a search warrant looking for evidence in a child pornography case. He reportedly monitored the agents approaching his apartment using a doorbell camera. Records show Huber had a computer consulting business and the agents were planning on seizing his computer as part of their investigation. He's accused of barricading himself in his apartment, then turning the gun on himself. Special agents Laura Schweschenberger and Daniel Afflin died of their injuries. The FBI director is hailing the agents as heroes. Back to break down the deadly search warrant is Marva Brown and Terri Austin. Marva, the officers were there to stop child pornography. So what happens to Huber's computers and the child pornography on it? Could that evidence lead to saving children's lives or prosecuting others for these crimes?
Definitely, Brian. The important thing is the agents went to the home with a valid search warrant. They showed a judge that they had probable cause, and a judge signed off on that warrant. So anything that's in that home that is the subject of the search warrant can be used in the prosecution of other people that are connected to Mr. Huber's crimes, right? They can get IP addresses, email addresses for anyone else that were connected to the child pornography cases. And you can believe the government is not going to let those officers' deaths be in vain. They are heroes. They are respected. They gave back to their community. They taught kids how to be safe on the internet. Their deaths will not be in vain.
Absolutely. Now, Terri, we've covered a lot of search warrants, but this was the deadliest day in FBI history since 2008. What are your thoughts on the officers who died trying to arrest a man accused of child pornography?
Well, Marva's exactly right. These are heroes. I mean, we know that Agent Schwarzenberger was only 43. She had 2 children. The other agent was only 36. And they were highly regarded. And in fact, we know already that Director Christopher Wray has visited at least one of the families and intends to visit the other. So they will be, remembered forever.
As they should. Thank you both, and thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.